Hi everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Julie Montague, the American Viscountess, if you are joining me for the first time. Would love you to subscribe to our channel, but also do make sure that you turn notifications on so that you get sort of beeped or buzzed or notified when a new vlog on my life as an American Viscountess comes out every Thursday, and then of course our new episodes every Saturday on historic houses, where I travel all across the UK visiting some of Britain's great estates. So today's video is all about the mistakes, and there have been quite a few that I have made as an American Viscountess. And I'm gonna give you kind of my top 5. When I married into the aristocracy, of course, I was then, I had a title, Viscountess Hinchingbrook. And yes, it is a mouthful. Things kind of changed a little bit as far as how I needed to get really my head around aspects of this sort of new life that I married into. So I'm gonna go through my 5 kind of top mistakes that I made marrying into the aristocracy. Number 1 was how to greet people, as in, I'm a hugger. So as the American, I would, of course, want to just come up and hug everybody. But I soon learned quite quickly that over here, it's really a kiss from one side of the cheek to the other side of the cheek. So I had to stop hugging. Well, hugging as much as I was probably used to, but I did mess it up at the beginning, because when you're not used to it and you're just used to sort of enveloping somebody into a big bear hug, I had to get my head around what side of the cheek do I go to first. So I've definitely made a few mistakes where I've nearly put my lips on somebody else's lips because I went to the wrong side. But I've pretty much got it right now, but I should have got it, I should have it right. I've been here long enough. My newfound sort of British friends, they do like to hug now too. So I should say that I've been able to at least pass some of my American hugging onto them as well. Number 2, definitely a big one. And I've made many mistakes, and I probably still do continue to make mistakes here. That is setting the table for a big dinner party. I still have problems with it. But I think as an American, well, at least I have grown up, you kind of use a fork, and that's pretty much about it, unless you're cutting into a piece of meat. But then you would put your knife down and then you would use your fork in your right hand. That's not true over here. Fork is in the left, knife is in the right. And so I had to get used to that. That was a big one. But on top of that, there are a lot more utensils used at a dinner party. So depending on the amount of courses is the amount of forks or knives or spoons and even plates and glasses. And I had to get my head around that you work from the outside in. But I'm gonna tell you something, I still, to this day, very occasionally doubt myself when I'm at a dinner party. And so I wait for a few people to start eating just to make sure I've picked up the right fork. Don't tell anybody that. I think it's because it was something that I didn't grow up with, that it's not second nature. But setting the table and understanding how many courses you have, whether it's a salad, a soup, a starter, a main, a pudding, and then the different wine glasses and the water glasses, oh my goodness. But of course, I really did have to learn how to properly eat with a fork always in my left hand, a knife always in my right. Then when you completely finish your course, you would then put the fork and the knife together with the prongs turning up. So turning up. So again, I had to get my head around that. I made that mistake and probably still do make that mistake as far as setting the table still to this day. Number 3, I inherited a title, Viscountess Hinchingbrook, and I really did have to get my head around how to address other people with titles, but also how I was sometimes addressed. I think the easiest way to do it is this. So my title is Viscountess Hinchingbrook. If someone were to write me a letter, they would write the Viscountess Hinchingbrook on the envelope, but on the inside, they would actually address me as Dear Lady Hinchingbrook. Now, I go by Julie, so when you are meeting somebody, they wouldn't address me as Viscountess Hinchingbrook to my face, they would actually address me as Lady Hinchingbrook. If I was being announced, it would be the same as what was written on that envelope. So if I was being announced but not addressed to, it would be Viscountess Hinchingbrook. And then if you're talking to me, well, you would go, if you were talking to me, you would just go by Julie, but you know what I mean? This is the, do you see how confusing that is? I mean, that is unbelievably confusing. That is something that I had to get my head around, and I'll be doing another video on differentiating between how you address a king and a queen, a prince and a princess, a duke and a duchess, marquis and marchioness, earl and countess, viscount and viscountess, baron and baroness in another video. And number 4 is sort of plays alongside dinner etiquette, if you like, understanding when you would speak to somebody on your left and somebody on your right. So if I was hosting the dinner, I could start speaking to somebody on my right or somebody on my left, then everybody else around the table would have to follow as well. So if I start to talk to somebody on my right, imagine that person is then speaking to me and that person is looking to the left. So then the person next to the person I'm speaking to must turn to the right. So you basically follow where the host or hostess start. And then what happens is you have to change. So you usually change when the courses change. I'm speaking to somebody to my right, I would then turn around and speak to the person on my left, and everybody else does the same. A big mistake. I've actually been at dinner parties where the person talking to me has said to me, do you know what, I'm gonna have to turn to the person on the other side now. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, so sorry. Because I was chatting away and realizing that I needed to turn as well. Definitely made that mistake, I mean, at least a handful of times. So the last, I think, big mistake that I have made is, I don't know if it's necessarily a mistake, but it was something that I really had to get my head around, and that was really understanding that the way that people over here in Great Britain and people who are who have been studying in one set sort of architectural design describe the rich history and the architecture here in Great Britain is it's actually based on the monarchs of the past. So for example, I'm going to use Mapperton House. It is considered the nation's finest manor house, and when I first arrived, I remember being told that it is a Tudor house, Elizabethan house, Jacobean with a Georgian facade. Now, that went way over my head. I had no idea what they were talking about. But of course, I had to really educate myself and educate myself quite quickly. But Tudor period is based around in the Tudors, so Henry VI, 7th and 8th, and that's roughly sort of 1485 to 1603. And then Elizabethan is named after Queen Elizabeth I. Then you've got the Stuarts, and it's not referred to so much, but there are some buildings who are obviously Stuarts, and that is Charles I and Charles II. And then of course you've got Jacobean, and that's the one that really confused me because I'm like, Jacobean, but that is James I. So that is after Elizabeth I, that's James I. And then moving on, you've got Queen Anne, and you'll hear a lot about, in particular, Queen Anne furniture even as well. This also goes to furniture as well. Then of course you've got Georgian furniture or Georgian architecture, and that's 1740 roughly to about 1837. Then Victorian. So you've got the named after, of course, Queen Victorian. Oh, I should back up. So Georgian is, of course, named after King George I, II, and III. Queen Victoria is obviously the Victorian period, and then you've got the Edwardian period, which is actually quite short. Edwardian is like 1901 to 1910, but again, that is Edward VII. So I think I've kind of covered that, but you can imagine I made some major faux pas on describing the architecture periods of different houses when I first arrived here, and really understanding the look of them, to be able to look at them now and pretty much know which one is Tudor, what might be Elizabethan, what is Georgian. Georgian's pretty easy to now figure out. I mean, I'm saying that now, but I've been here a while. Victorian and Edwardian. I'm also doing my master's in country house studies, and one of the main purposes of me doing that master's is to make sure that I'm really understanding this architecture of these historic houses, because Britain is full of them. You know, this is the country that has more historic houses than I think any other country in the world. And being able to look at a house, whether it's the windows or the facade, of course, the stone, the architecture, the design, the carvings, and decide what period it comes from. So those are my top mistakes, top 5 mistakes that I have made when I married into the aristocracy. I do hope that you have enjoyed this video. Do comment down below if you've made any faux pas yourself as far as being over here in the UK. Do let me know down below. And if you do want a video that is more in depth about these architectural periods, do let me know. I'd love to do one, but let me know down below. Be sure to hit like. Definitely, I would really appreciate that. Like and comment and turn notifications on, and I'll see you back here very soon.